Shadows of Truth, Betrayal, Romance, and Revenge, the ultimate showdown between love and power. The rain drummed softly against the window pane as Anna Hamilton stood in front of the towering building of the New York Chronicle. She pulled her coat tighter around her slender frame, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The air smelled of freshly printed newspapers, ink, and ambition. Anna had dreamed of becoming a journalist since she was a child, fascinated by stories that could change the world. But now, standing in the lobby of one of the city's most prestigious newspapers, she felt an unfamiliar wave of doubt. Was she truly ready for this? "Miss Hamilton?" A sleek-looking receptionist peered over her desk, barely glancing up from her screen. "Mr. Dawson will see you now." Jack Dawson. The name alone carried weight in the world of journalism. Son of Richard Dawson, the owner of the New York Chronicle, Jack had made a name for himself as a ruthless editor with an uncanny ability to uncover the truth. At 30, he was already a legend in the business, and now he was the man standing between Anna and her first real job. She stepped into his office, her heart pounding. Jack sat behind a massive mahogany desk, flipping through a file. Without looking up, he spoke, his voice smooth but laced with disinterest. "Anna Hamilton, Columbia graduate, a few freelance pieces, a passion for investigative journalism." He finally looked at her, piercing blue eyes locking onto hers. "What makes you think you belong here?" Anna straightened her shoulders, willing her voice to remain steady. "Because I'm willing to go where others won't, to uncover stories that matter, to tell the truth." Jack smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Truth? That's a dangerous game in this city, Miss Hamilton. Are you ready for that?" Before she could answer, the office door burst open. A woman with fiery eyes and dark curls stormed in. "Anna, you won't believe what I just found out." Camila Vasquez, Anna's best friend and roommate, held up her phone. "That murder case on Fifth Avenue? There's more to it than the police are saying." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You're already chasing a story?" Anna swallowed hard. She hadn't even gotten the job yet, but something told her this was just the beginning. Anna's breath hitched as she glanced at Camila's phone. A grainy photo filled the screen. Police tape stretched across a lavish entrance, the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the wet pavement. The caption read, "Prominent defense attorney Mark Ellison found dead in his apartment robbery," or something more? Jack leaned forward, interest flickering in his icy blue eyes. "You're talking about the Ellison case? What do you know?" Camila hesitated, casting a nervous glance at Anna before speaking. "I have a friend in forensics. She says the crime scene doesn't match a robbery. There were no signs of forced entry, and the security cameras in the building were wiped clean just minutes before the estimated time of death." Jack's expression darkened. Someone wanted Ellison dead and made sure no one would see it happen. Anna's fingers tingled with excitement. "This could be my first real story." Jack exhaled sharply, standing up. "If you want to prove yourself, Hamilton, then follow the facts. But be careful, Ellison wasn't just any lawyer. He was involved in some of the most high-profile cases in the city. Whoever did this isn't going to like journalists sniffing around." Camila smirked. "Dangerous is Anna's middle name." Anna shot her a look but couldn't deny the thrill surging through her. "Where do we start?" Jack tossed a folder onto his desk. Ellison had a last appointment the night he was killed, a journalist. Anna's stomach dropped. "Who?" Jack's jaw tensed. Aidan Calloway. The name sent a shiver down her spine. Aidan was a former reporter for the Chronicle, a star investigative journalist until he disappeared 2 years ago. Some said he left to expose corruption on his own term. Others whispered darker theories. Camila frowned. If Aidan was with Ellison that night, he might know something. Anna nodded, determination setting in. "Then we find him." Jack studied her for a long moment before smirking. "All right, Hamilton, let's see what you've got." Anna and Camila left the Chronicle office with renewed urgency. The city streets were buzzing with life, neon lights reflecting off the wet pavement as cabs honked impatiently. Anna's mind raced. Aidan Calloway, a rising star and investigative journalist, had vanished without a trace. If he was the last person to see Mark Ellison alive, he held the key to unlocking this mystery. Camila pulled up her phone, scrolling furiously. He hasn't written anything in 2 years. No social media, no public records. He's a ghost. Anna frowned. Someone like Aiden doesn't just disappear. He must be hiding for a reason. Jack had given her a lead before they left, a name scribbled onto a piece of paper. Liam Carter, private investigator. If anyone knew how to find ghosts, it was a PI. The duo arrived at Carter's office, a dimly lit space in a rundown building in Brooklyn. A flickering sign above the door read Carter Investigations. Anna knocked, the sound echoing in the narrow hallway. After a long pause, the door creaked open. A rugged man in his 40s with sharp hazel eyes and a 5 o'clock shadow studied them. If you're selling something, I ain't buying. Anna stood her ground. We're looking for Aiden Calloway. Carter's expression hardened. Never heard of him. Camila crossed her arms. Funny, because your name was given to us as someone who might know where he is. Carter sighed, rubbing his temples. Listen, Calloway isn't the kind of guy you just go looking for. He had powerful enemies. If he's alive, it's because he doesn't want to be found. Anna took a step closer. Mark Ellison was murdered, and Aiden might be the only one who knows why. If you know anything, we need your help. Carter studied her for a long moment before exhaling sharply. There's a bar in Queens, the Rusty Anchor. A guy named Rico works there. If anyone knows how to find Calloway, it's him. But be careful, Rico doesn't talk to just anyone. Anna nodded. Then we'll make him talk. The Rusty Anchor was exactly what Anna expected, a dive bar filled with cigarette smoke and murmured conversations. The bartender, a heavily tattooed man with a scar running down his cheek, was wiping down glasses when they walked in. Camila nudged Anna. That's Rico. Anna squared her shoulders and approached the bar. We're looking for Aiden Calloway. Rico stilled, his eyes flickering with something unreadable. Never heard of him. Anna slid a crisp $50 bill across the counter. Try again. Rico smirked but pocketed the money. He leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. If you're asking about Calloway, you must have a death wish. Anna's pulse quickened. Why? Rico glanced around before whispering, because if Aiden Calloway is still alive, he's in more trouble than you can imagine. Anna felt a chill crawl up her spine at Rico's words. She exchanged a glance with Camila, who gave a slight nod. They weren't about to back down now. Anna leaned in closer. Then tell us what you know. Rico hesitated, then sighed. There's a warehouse down by the docks, Pier 17. Word is Calloway was seen there a few nights ago. If he's still in town, that's your best shot. Camila frowned. Why would he be at the docks? Rico wiped down the counter, avoiding their gaze. Because someone like Calloway doesn't just hide. He's looking for something too. Anna straightened. Then we go to Pier 17. The docks were nearly deserted when Anna and Camila arrived. The scent of salt and oil lingered in the damp night air, and the distant hum of the city felt like a world away. They moved cautiously between stacked shipping containers, their footsteps muffled by the wooden planks beneath them. A sudden noisy scuff of a shoe against metal made them freeze. Anna turned sharply. Who's there? A shadow moved near the entrance of the warehouse. Before they could react, a figure stepped out of the darkness. A man in his late 30s, unshaven and wearing a worn leather jacket, met their gaze. His piercing green eyes held a mix of wariness and defiance. Aiden Calloway, Anna breathed. Calloway crossed his arms. You shouldn't have come here. Camila took a cautious step forward. We need to talk. Aiden shook his head. You don't get it. If I talk, we're all dead. Anna felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. Ellison was murdered. You were the last person to see him. We need to know why. Aiden ran a hand through his hair, glancing over his shoulder. It's bigger than Ellison. He found something that got him killed. And if you keep digging, you're next. Before Anna could press him further, the sound of approaching footsteps sent a jolt of panic through the air. Aiden cursed under his breath. They found me. Without warning, he grabbed Anna's wrist. Run! A gunshot rang out, shattering the stillness of the night. The gunshot echoed through the docks, sending a flock of seagulls screeching into the night sky. Anna's heart pounded as Aiden yanked her forward, his grip firm but urgent. Camila was already moving, sprinting beside them as heavy footsteps thundered behind them. Who are they? Anna gasped, her breath ragged as they weaved between the towering shipping containers. Aiden didn't answer. Instead, he pulled them into a narrow gap between two crates and pressed a finger to his lips. The footsteps slowed, spreading out as shadows danced under the flickering dock lights. "They're professionals," he whispered. "Not street thugs. Whoever killed Ellison sent them." Anna swallowed hard, adrenaline surging through her veins. "What did Ellison find?" Aiden hesitated, then whispered, "A list. Names of powerful people judges, politicians, cops people who shouldn't be working together. But they are." Camila's eyes widened. "A conspiracy?" Aiden nodded, and Ellison was about to expose it. A voice cut through the night. "Come out, Calloway. We know you're here." The trio tensed. Anna recognized the voice code, calculating. "Jack Dawson." Aiden's eyes darkened. "Your boss is involved in this?" Anna's stomach twisted. Jack had warned her not to dig too deep, but was he trying to protect her or silence her? A sudden crash shattered the tense silence as Camila knocked over a metal barrel, drawing attention. "Run!" she hissed. They bolted, feet slamming against the damp wooden planks. A second gunshot rang out, splintering the crate beside them. Anna gasped but kept moving, her mind racing. If Jack was involved, who else could they trust? As they neared the edge of the docks, headlights flared in the distance. A black SUV screeched to a halt, blocking their escape. Aiden cursed, "They've boxed us in." Anna turned, scanning desperately for another way out. Then she saw Ida motorboat bobbing in the water, untied, its keys still in the ignition. She grabbed Aiden's sleeve. "The boat!" Without hesitation, they ran. Camila leaped in first, fumbling with the controls as Aiden shoved off. Anna barely made it aboard as bullets struck the dock behind her. The engine roared to life, and the boat lurched forward into the dark, open water. As the city lights faded behind them, Anna turned to Aiden. "We need that list." Aiden exhaled, then reached into his jacket, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. "I already have it." Anna's breath hitched. This was bigger than she ever imagined. And now they were the ones being hunted. The boat cut through the dark waters, the city skyline shrinking behind them. Anna's hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the seat, her mind reeling. The list Aiden had names of powerful people was their only leverage, but it also made them targets. Camila steered, glancing back. "We can't just keep running. We need a plan." Aiden nodded. "We need someone who can help us get this out without getting killed." Anna's thoughts immediately went to one person, Liam Carter, the private investigator. Camila frowned. "You think we can trust him?" "He's not part of the system. He helped us before, he might do it again." Aiden hesitated, then sighed. "Fine, but if he's working for the wrong people, we're dead the second we step into his office." By morning, they reached a secluded dock in a quiet part of Brooklyn. Aiden ditched the boat, and they moved cautiously through back streets until they arrived at Carter's office. Carter opened the door, his expression unreadable. "You look like hell." Aiden shoved the crumpled paper into his hand. "Take a look." Carter's eyes scanned the names, his face darkening. "Jesus. You know what this is?" Anna nodded. "Ellison died for it. And now they're after us." Carter exhaled sharply. "This list isn't just names, it's a map. These people aren't just connected. They're running something big." Aiden's jaw tightened. "Then help us expose them." Carter looked at them for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. "I have a contact at the New York Sentinel. If we go to the Chronicle, Dawson will bury it. But if we go somewhere else somewhere with real reach, we might have a chance." A knock at the door cut him off. The room fell silent. Carter pulled his gun and motioned for them to stay quiet. He moved to the door, peering through the peephole. "Shit." He turned back to them. "It's Jack Dawson." Anna's breath caught. Camila reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. Carter took a deep breath and opened the door. Jack stepped inside, his icy blue eyes scanning the room. "We need to talk." Part 7. The Offer. Jack closed the door behind him, his gaze settling on Anna. "You're in way over your head." Aiden stepped in front of her. "You working for them, Dawson?" Jack exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I'm trying to stop this from turning into a massacre." He glanced at the list in Carter's hand. You think publishing that will fix everything? It'll start a war. Anna's pulse pounded. So you knew. Jack met her eyes. I knew enough to stay quiet, but now you've dragged yourself into it. And if you don't stop, you'll end up like Ellison. Carter folded his arms. You came here for a reason, Dawson. Say it. Jack sighed. I can make sure you live through this, but you have to give me the list. Aiden let out a cold laugh. You're out of your damn mind if you think we're handing this over. Jack leaned forward. You don't get it. These people don't just have money and power. They have an army. If this goes public the wrong way, they'll kill anyone they can't silence. Anna hesitated. He wasn't wrong. But was he actually trying to help Themer just protect himself? Jack softened his voice. Anna, you know me. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it out of the docks. Camila tightened her grip on Anna's arm. Don't listen to him. Jack turned to Carter. You have a contact at the Sentinel, right? Let me set up the meeting. But we do this my way. A tense silence filled the room. Aiden clenched his fists. You expect us to trust you? Jack's expression darkened. You don't have a choice. Anna looked at Aiden, at Camila, then at Carter. They had come too far to turn back now. She took a deep breath. Fine, but if you betray us, I'll make sure your name is at the top of that list. Jack smirked. Fair enough. The deal was struck. But the danger was far from over. The tension in the room was suffocating. Jack had just left, promising to set up a meeting with his contact. Carter was still on edge, while Aiden paced like a caged animal. Camila stayed close to Anna, but there was something else lingering in the air, something unspoken between her and Jack. That night, unable to sleep, Anna stepped onto the dimly lit fire escape of Carter's office. The city stretched out before her, the skyline shimmering under the weight of secrets she wished she'd never uncovered. Couldn't sleep either? She turned sharply. Jack stood just behind her, leaning against the metal railing. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up, revealing toned forearm. His usual smugness was replaced by something heavier: exhaustion, frustration, desire. Anna crossed her arms. You're playing both sides, Jack. I don't trust you. Jack stepped closer, the heat of his body dangerously close to hers. You shouldn't. She swallowed hard, refusing to step back. Then why are you here? Jack studied her, his piercing blue eyes searching hers. Because you're the only person I can't lie to. Anna's breath hitched. The city noises faded. The air between them thickened, charged with something she had fought to ignore. Jack reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You drive me insane, Hamilton. Before she could think, before she could stop herself, his lips crashed onto hers. It was rough, desperate, like a man who had been holding back for too long. Anna clutched his shirt, pulling him closer, heat spreading through her like wildfire. He lifted her against the railing, deepening the kiss as if this moment was all they had left. Then, just as suddenly, Jack pulled away, his breathing ragged. This is a mistake. Anna, still dazed, exhaled. I know. But neither of them moved. Morning came too soon. Jack was gone before Anna even opened her eyes. She forced herself to push aside what had happened. There was no room for distraction now. Carter paced the room as they waited for Jack's contact. This is risky. If Dawson double-crosses us, we're walking into a trap. Aiden, arms crossed, shot Anna a look. You sure you're thinking straight about him? Anna stiffened. This isn't about Jack. Before Aiden could press further, the door opened. Jack stepped in, followed by a tall woman in a sleek black suit. Her sharp eyes flicked over them with an air of authority. This is Evelyn Monroe, Jack introduced. Investigative journalist. If anyone can break this story, it's her. Evelyn nodded. I've seen the list. If we go public, they'll come after us hard. We need to be ready. Camila frowned. So what's the plan? Jack inhaled. We split up. Anna and I meet Evelyn source someone inside the operation. Aiden and Camila create a diversion to throw them off. Carter looked unconvinced. And if it's a trap? Jack's gaze locked onto Anna's. Then we fight our way out. Anna's heart pounded. Everything was leading to this. The truth was within reach. But was Jack really on their side or leading her straight into betrayal? The rain drummed against the pavement as Anna and Jack made their way through the back alley, their destination a dimly lit parking garage where Evelyn's source had agreed to meet. Anna's mind raced. She had spent the entire walk trying to ignore the way Jack's touch still burned on her skin, but it was impossible. Last night had changed something complicated in an already impossible situation. Jack glanced at her. "You're too quiet." Anna met his gaze, trying to steady her breath. "Just thinking." A ghost of a smirk played on his lips. "Dangerous habit." She rolled her eyes, but couldn't deny the warmth that spread through her. She hated how he affected her, how despite everything, she wanted to trust him. But trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. They reached the parking garage. Evelyn was already there, her posture rigid as she scanned the shadows. A single overhead light flickered, casting long, eerie shapes across the concrete floor. "Where's the source?" Jack asked. Evelyn didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she exhaled. "Something's wrong." Before Anna could react, the sound of tires screeching cut through the silence. Black SUVs surged into the garage, headlights blinding them. "Run!" Jack grabbed Anna's wrist, yanking her behind a pillar as masked figures poured out of the vehicles, guns drawn. Evelyn ducked for cover, drawing her own weapon and firing back. The sharp crack of gunfire echoed through the cavernous space. Anna's pulse pounded. "It's a setup." Jack's jaw clenched. "No shit." Bullets ricocheted off the concrete as they scrambled for an escape route. Evelyn took out one of the gunmen, but more were closing in. Jack turned to Anna, eyes wild. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, but only for a second. "Yes." "Then follow me." Jack grabbed her hand, leading her toward the far end of the garage. Aiden's voice suddenly crackled through Jack's earpiece. "We're on our way. Hold tight." Jack pulled Anna behind a car, shielding her with his body as another hail of bullets rained down. Evelyn was still holding them off, but she wouldn't last much longer. Then, just as Anna thought they were trapped, Jack spotted an opening, a stairwell leading to the upper levels. He turned to Anna. "Go! Now!" They bolted. Behind them, Evelyn covered their escape, taking down another attacker before disappearing into the chaos. They reached the second level, breathless. Jack pressed her against the wall, his body against hers, shielding her as he listened for pursuers. Their faces were inches apart, heat radiating between them despite the cold night air. "This is insane," Anna whispered. Jack's lips quirked into a smirk. "You love it." Before she could respond, another set of footsteps thundered toward them. Jack grabbed her hand. "Time to go." They sprinted toward an emergency exit, kicking it open just as Camila and Aiden's car screeched to a stop outside. "Get in," Camila shouted. They barely made it into the car before Aiden floored the gas, speeding into the night. Behind them, the garage erupted into chaos as their pursuers realized they had escaped. Anna's heart pounded as she turned to Jack. "Evelyn?" "She'll make it out," Jack said, though his expression was tight with worry. "Right now, we focus on what's next." Anna swallowed hard. "And what's next?" Jack's jaw clenched. "We stop running. We take the fight to them." She met his gaze, fire burning in her chest. "Then let's do it." They were done hiding. It was time to end this. The city stretched before them, a glittering maze of shadows and secrets. Anna sat in the back seat of the speeding car, her pulse still hammering from the ambush. The reality of their situation weighed on her. Whoever was behind this wouldn't stop until they were silenced. Aiden drove in tense silence, his hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. Camila kept watch through the rear window, checking for pursuers. Jack, sitting beside Anna, was eerily calm, his jaw set in deep thought. "We need to regroup," Aiden said, breaking the silence. "Evelyn might still be alive, but we can't count on it." Jack exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "They won't stop. We need to strike first." Anna stared at him. "Strike first? How?" Jack's gaze darkened. "We expose them. We go public." Camila turned around in her seat. "With what proof? The list alone won't be enough. We need hard evidence." Anna swallowed. They had come this far, but without undeniable proof, they were as good as dead. Aiden suddenly veered the car into a narrow alley, cutting the headlights. "We can't go to your place," he said. "They'll be watching." Jack nodded. "I have another safe house." They pulled up to an old brownstone on the Lower East Side. Jack led them inside through a side entrance, locking the door behind them. The space was small but functional, with minimal furniture and blackout curtains. Anna sat down, rubbing her temples. "We need to find Evelyn." Jack crouched in front of her. "Anna, listen to me." She knew the risks. "Right now, we need to think ahead." She looked up at him, frustration burning in her chest. "She's our best lead." Jack hesitated, then reached for her hand. His touch was warm, grounding. "I know, and I swear we'll find her, but we need a plan." Aiden cleared his throat. "We might not need Evelyn. I hacked into their system before we left. There's more than just a list. There are bank transfers, confidential emails enough to bring them down." Anna's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" Aiden smirked. "I never joke about cybercrime." Jack stood. "Then it's time." Camila exhaled. "You know, once we do this, there's no going back." Anna straightened, determination hardening her resolve. "We've been running long enough. Let's finish this." Jack held her gaze for a long moment. Then, with a slow nod, he said, "All right, let's burn them to the ground." The plan was set in motion. Aiden worked through the night, preparing the files for release. Camila made contact with an underground news network willing to air the story. Jack reached out to his father's competitor's rival media moguls, who would be more than happy to expose a scandal of this magnitude. Anna, however, had one final task. She stared at her phone, fingers hovering over the dial pad. There was only one person left who could give them a direct link to the truth. Swallowing her pride, she called the number. A groggy voice answered. "This better be good, Hamilton." "Detective Carter," she said, gripping the phone tightly. "I have something you'll want to see." A pause. Then, "Where?" "Pier 17. Midnight." Jack frowned as she hung up. "Are you sure about this?" Anna met his gaze. "We need law enforcement on our side." Jack sighed, rubbing his temple. "Carter's a wild card." "Maybe, but he's our best shot." The hours crawled by. When midnight struck, they arrived at the deserted pier, the cold wind whipping through the docks. Carter was already there, his badge glinting under the dim streetlight. Anna stepped forward, holding out a flash drive. "Everything you need is on here. Corruption, bribery, murder." Carter took it, weighing it in his palm. "And what do you want in return?" Jack tensed beside her, but Anna held firm. "Protection. When this goes public, we'll be their next targets." Carter exhaled. "You're playing a dangerous game, Hamilton." Anna smirked. "I always do." Carter studied her, then nodded. "I'll do what I can." Just as she let out a breath of relief, headlights flared from the road leading to the pier. Engines roared. Black SUVs screeched to a halt, doors flying open. Jack cursed. "They found us." Anna's blood turned to ice. They weren't done yet. The cold wind howled through the empty docks as Anna and Jack crouched behind a weathered shipping crate. The harsh sound of tires screeching broke the eerie silence, and headlights blinded them momentarily. Black SUVs poured into the pier, and Anna's pulse quickened. They'd been cornered. "We have to move now," Jack said, his voice low and urgent. He grabbed her hand, pulling her close. "Stay close," he whispered again, his breath warm against her ear. His hand tightened around hers, the weight of the situation of everything they'd fought through pressing down on both of them. "Go!" Jack barked as gunfire rang out, bullets hitting the concrete and splintering the nearby crates. Without thinking, they both sprinted toward the nearest warehouse, using the darkness to shield them from their pursuers. "Get to cover!" Jack shouted, pulling Anna behind a large metal barrel. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. The enemy was closing in. Camila and Aiden had already made their move, drawing fire and splitting the attention of their attackers. Anna couldn't focus on anything but the man in front of her, the man who had been both a part of her nightmare and her greatest ally. In that moment, amidst the chaos and the violence, she couldn't deny the pull between them. The plan had been simple: draw the enemies out, fight to survive. But it had always been more than that for Anna and Jack. Somewhere between the danger, the lies, and the betrayals, something real had formed. Something raw. And now, with nowhere to hide and no way out, they had to confront it. Jack's eyes locked onto hers, his gaze sharp and calculating. "We need to move," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But we have to be smart about this." Anna nodded, her heart racing, not just from the threat of being killed, but from the sheer magnetism she felt every time Jack looked at her. They were in this together, now no more secrets, no more running. As they darted through the darkened warehouse, Jack turned to Anna, his hand grazing her cheek as he momentarily paused. His breath was ragged, his usual cool exterior faltering for just a split second. "Anna, no matter what happens," he began, his voice low, "this doesn't end here. Not for us. We've been through too much to pretend otherwise." Her pulse quickened at his words, the weight of them sinking in. She had always pushed him away, always told herself it was too dangerous. But the truth was, she had never been able to resist him. "I'm not pretending anymore," she replied, her voice steady but her heart pounding. "I can't." Before she could say more, Jack stepped closer, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that was desperate and consuming. It wasn't just a kiss of passion, it was everything they had been through. The danger, the pain, the uncertainty, and the undeniable chemistry between them that they couldn't fight anymore. As their lips parted, Jack pressed his forehead to hers, his breathing labored. "We don't have to do this the way they want us to," he said, his voice rough. "We can take control. Together." The gunfire had stopped. The sound of their enemies approaching had faded, replaced by the beating of Anna's heart and the electricity in the air between them. "I don't want to run anymore, Jack," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Let's end this." He nodded, his hand resting on the back of her neck, pulling her close again. "Then we do it our way." They moved swiftly through the dimly lit warehouse, evading the last of their pursuers. They fought side by side, their bond undeniable, each of them proving that they were more than capable of taking down the enemy. But with each step, it became clear the real victory was the one they'd found in each other. Finally, as they reached the back exit of the warehouse, Jack turned to Anna, his face illuminated by the faint glow of the streetlights outside. His eyes softened as they locked onto hers. "We've made it," he said, his voice filled with relief. Anna smiled, the weight of everything finally lifting from her shoulders. They had done it, they had survived. But as she looked into Jack's eyes, she realized that their fight had never just been about the enemies outside. It had always been about the one inside. Without another word, Jack reached for her hand, pulling her into a kiss that was deeper, more passionate than anything they had shared before. It was their moment, their victory. They pulled away, breathless, but neither of them wanted to break the connection they'd finally found. Jack's hand traced along her jawline, his thumb brushing the scar on her neck from where she'd been grazed by a bullet earlier. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice full of tenderness and raw emotion. Anna laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I think we've already made that decision." Jack smiled, that familiar mischievous glint returning to his eyes, but there was something else there too, something deeper. "Then let's make it count," he said before pulling her back into another kiss, one that held the promise of everything they'd fought for. The world could crumble around them. But in that moment, with Jack's arms around her, Anna knew they had already won. Together. The end.